All right, what's going on, everybody? I am back. And today I want to talk about something that I get asked about a lot over on Twitch, and I just feel like it would be something that I should just make a video on, so I don't have to explain it all the time. So the topic of today's video is going to be just kind of about my story and what my experience and like how I've known I'm trans and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna take you from basically as far back as I can remember until today, basically. Um, so yeah, that's gonna be the plan for today. So stay tuned. We're gonna just go in order. Yeah. Okay, section number one is gonna be my childhood. Um, I broke this up kind of weird, so just kind of bear with me. My childhood years are gonna be basically from my very first memories, anywhere from there up until right before middle school. So I'm just gonna talk about what was going on and what kind of stuff I was noticing and all that kind of stuff because maybe it'll help somebody. Um, so in how far back can I remember here? Let's see. In like all throughout elementary school, I was enjoying playing dress up with some of the girls from my family's church. And yeah, that was just like my favorite activity at the time. I didn't necessarily dislike sports or anything like that, but um, playing dress up was definitely something that I enjoyed way more than anything else that we were doing. Um, and at the time, that just seemed normal to me, but once I started noticing things later on in my life, I kind of was able to go back and connect the dots and be like, oh, that was one of the very first signs. And it's funny because like you don't notice it in the moment necessarily. It wasn't until years later that I finally started to connect some dots and be like, ah, that makes sense. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, that was pretty much it for my early childhood years. So let's get on to the next section. I forget what I call it, like adolescent years. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay, so next we're gonna get on to my middle school years. This was kind of when I started going to. This is when I switched to a public school and started to kind of fall into those gender roles that I was kind of just being taught that I was supposed to do. And I was just doing basically, I would just do what I was told and not worry about how it made me feel. Um, but thinking back recently when I was kind of preparing for this video, I remember that there was this story. Um, it's by this person named Suejrz, Suejrz is how you spell it. But it's a story titled Mom's Unique Punishment. And it's basically about this kid, Danny, who shoplifted stuff and his mom found out and basically forced him to transition, more or less. And I remember reading that. I would go underneath my bed and just read that story. The entire thing. It's definitely a mature story. So I don't recommend going and reading it, but it was something that when reading it, I was like, what's so bad about that? I wish somebody would do that to me. Like it didn't make sense in my head that somebody would be upset about becoming a girl. Like in my head I was jealous. I was like, this isn't fair. Why are you upset about this? Yeah, that was the main thing that really stood out from like middle school is just being obsessed with that story. And I know there were other stories similar to it. But yeah, I just would constantly just go under my bed, read them for hours. For hours and hours and hours. But yeah, that was pretty much it for middle school. So let's get on to like the high school age. I don't know if I have a title for it yet, but regardless, let's move on to high school. So high school was interesting. I didn't spend a whole lot of time in high school. I only did 2 years before going on to college for a variety of reasons, which I can address at another point if you really want to know about it. But basically, while I was in high school, I'm going to include the years of college. Well, no, college will be its own section, so we'll get to that. But in high school, I didn't necessarily realize that I was trans yet. I just hadn't connected the dots fully. But what I was noticing was that I wasn't a boy, basically. I didn't necessarily realize that transitioning was a thing I could actually do. Um, and in the moment, I just kind of was like, yeah, it sucks. Life sucks. But I guess I'm just gonna keep pushing on through. And so I just became really, really focused on making it through school and just making it through my career and not worrying about if I'm ever happy or not. But yeah, high school, that's why high school sucked for me, because I was exhausting myself trying to be someone I wasn't and trying to fit in. And that just, I wish I had realized then that I could transition, because that would have made my life so much better if I had known that at the time. But yeah, let's move on to college. I'm going to keep these in the same section because high school was a really short period of time relative to college. But like I said, I started college at 16. Um, and that really isolated me from my friends in high school. Um, I wasn't seeing them every day, so you just kind of, just like you do when you leave high school, you lose touch and you just kind of fall out of contact a little bit. But yeah, in college, I went to a private Christian university. Um, and for me, that led to me pushing stuff down and not accepting myself for who I was. And that um, between my college years and years prior, I found myself becoming both homophobic and transphobic at the time, which is stuff that I'm having to work through now because I feel that way towards myself and it sucks. But it's something I'm working through. But yeah, I started really trying to push everything down in college and just ignore it, which didn't work. I was in a relationship that wasn't great for me at the beginning, which involved some stuff that I'm not gonna get into. But yeah, so I was still having moments popping up throughout everyday life where I would be like, huh, that's weird. That's kind of not a boy thing to do. Oh well, let's ignore it. Haha. And then I ended up, once I moved out of my parents' house in going into my junior year, no, my senior year of college, one of the two, I don't know. I started to allow myself to not, definitely not start to embrace who I was yet, but kind of start to stop pushing down so hard. And by not pushing it down so hard, it kind of just started to come back up on its own. And I told my second girlfriend during college about that at the time, who is still somebody I definitely consider a friend. She was awesome. But I kind of told her about that side of me, which she was really supportive of, which I'm so appreciative of. But she let me just kind of start exploring that a little bit within the safety of our relationship, um, which really allowed me to see that that was an option. And as I'm going to talk about in the post-college stuff that's coming in the next section, it really just allowed that section of stuff to even occur in the first place, because I don't think without that relationship, the things that happened after college, I don't think any of them end up happening if it weren't for that relationship. It definitely was a relationship that works better as a friendship than a relationship, and I think she would agree with that. But yeah, it really opened my eyes to see there were different ways of living than just what I had been raised to believe. And yeah, that's about it for the college years, I think. So let's move on to the real meat and potatoes, which is right after graduation. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is the final section. This is... So right after college, I made up my mind that I was going to move across the country from Ohio to Arizona. And I worked pretty hard to make that a possibility. So we're just going to fast forward until I got here. Once I got to Arizona, I started to let myself explore who I was, which involved me not only exploring my gender identity, but also my sexuality. So I found myself in situations with people of both sexes, and I also was able to meet my first trans person, which was really the kind of that boom, that trigger that really set off my brain to be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And that happened a good few months into living in Arizona. I met her and we were just talking about like her experience and stuff, and I was like, you know what, that sounds a lot like some stuff that I went through. And I just kind of started reflecting. I've always been a really reflective person, but I really started reflecting on my life at that point and noticed that it made a lot more sense in terms of, if I want to be happy, I should start transitioning. So I didn't get onto medication or anything at that time because I was still trying to figure things out for sure. But I did let myself start transition within my own home. So anytime I was around my house or around my apartment, I would be living my life as a woman. And I felt so much better then. I felt so much better when I was doing those types of things in my own home than when I would have to leave my apartment and pretend to be a boy. It just wasn't me, and I was finding myself exhausted because it's hard to pretend to be someone you're not 24/7. But after a certain international thing happened that we're not going to worry about, financially, I had to move back to Ohio, and that's when I met my current partner, and I ended up moving in with her to be able to start transitioning in a safe place. I wasn't sure how my parents would react at the time, and I didn't really want to risk a negative reaction, so I found somewhere that was safe that I could go so that I could start my transition. And after that, I just started transitioning. I started transitioning in November of 2020, and I could look up the exact date, but I probably won't. But yeah, I started transitioning, and it was very, very emotional at the beginning. I'm still way more emotional now than I was before. But I could just do a video purely on my experience with hormones, but that's not going to be this video. I'm going to save that for another time. But anyway, I started socially transitioning after moving back to Arizona, which is where I'm at now. And yeah, I don't know. It's been an experience. I definitely I love my life so much more now. I actually feel a reason to keep going. Transitioning has given me a reason to live, and I know that it's not for everyone, and that doesn't make you any less valid. But if you do have any questions about my experience on hormones, wait, there's a video gonna come out soon about that, hopefully. What if you have any other questions about my journey, my experience? Feel free to reach out. You can leave it in the comments down below. Speaking of which, let me just sell out real quick. Make sure to hold on, I'm on YouTube, not Twitch. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment any questions you have or stuff that you'd like to see me talk about. Okay, now that I got the sellout out of the way, I hate doing that part, but you gotta do it. But yeah, if you have any questions, just either reach out to me on Discord through my Discord, or just leave it in the comments down below. And I think that is it for this video. We kind of talked about everything that led from my earliest memories to when I started my transition, and I hope this is helpful to someone. If you did make it to the end of this video, wow, I don't know how long it's going to be after editing, but I really appreciate it. So yeah, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next video.